Hi guys, it's Ty and welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to go ahead and talk about another round of recent reads, and for the most part I enjoyed everything that I have recently read. Three of these were romance novels. All of these are adult books, but three of them were romance novels. One of these were like a historical fiction. It has some romance in it, and I gave one of them a 5 stars, and then the rest of them are all 4 stars. So like I said, I enjoyed everything that I read recently, so I am on a roll, which is very shocking for me so far. So we are going to go ahead and jump right into it, and I'm just going to go in order of how I read them. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first one that I'm going to start with is How to Fail at Flirting by Denise Williams. And again, this is a adult romance, and this follows our main character by the name of Naya, and she is a college professor, and she is working at this university. She's been there for a few years, and she is trying to work on her tenure, and she basically gets this news that her university is trying to make some cuts, and her department is actually one of those departments that actually might be trying to get cut. So while she is trying to deal with the situation at her job, she is also at this point in her life where she was recently, well, she had just recently got out of a really bad abusive relationship. And so her best friends have tried to encourage her to get back out into the dating scene, and one night she decides that that's exactly what she's going to do. So she kind of like concocts this list of things that she is going to try to accomplish while she is out there trying to date. And while she is out there at this bar, she ends up coming across this guy by the name of Jake, and basically from that first night they hit it off. So while she is out there with Jake, they hit it off. They end up seeing each other. They kind of mess around on that first night. And while they are seeing each other, come to find out, Jake works for this company that goes around and I kind of forget what they call it, but they go around to companies that are trying to basically downsize, and they actually end up at her university, and they are trying to figure out where they can make cuts. So now she is dealing with Jake, who is working at her university, trying to figure out how they're going to make cuts there. And so now their relationship is less or so a conflict of interest. So not only is she trying to deal with her job situation, now she's trying to deal with this new situation with Jake. And not only is she dealing with all of that, the relationship that she was recently in, that guy has now come back into her life. So Naya is dealing with a whole bunch of stuff. And so the story basically is taken off from there, and we are following Naya as she is trying to navigate all of that. And I absolutely loved this story, and this is the one that I gave 5 out of 5 stars to. So I loved Naya as a character. I loved her relationship between her and Jake, and I loved the fact that this story just dealt with so many different things. So like I said, she was in this really abusive relationship, and we got to see her interaction between her and her ex-boyfriend by the name of Davis, and all of the things that he did to her were just terrible. Not only was he physically abusive, he was mentally abusive to her. He would talk down to her all the time. He was always undermining her work and always questioned the type of work that she did. He wasn't very supportive of her work. He always talked down to her in front of people, always made her feel less than. And it wasn't even just to her. He just talked down to women in general. He even did a revenge porn with her. He was a terrible human being. And then you had Jake, who was just this sweet, awkward, nerdy guy that came into her life. But Jake had his own situation going on, which I can appreciate, because in the beginning of this, I just thought that this author was going to make Jake just kind of seemed like this perfect person. And I mean, that's not realistic. Nobody is perfect. So I was happy to know that Jake had his own set of flaws, and he did have his own set of flaws because Jake had, like I said, Jake had his own situation going on. So we all had issues going on in this book, and I love this. I ended up listening to this on audiobook, and this is one of those audiobooks I would recommend. And I've ended up flying through this probably in like 2 days, I think. In the beginning, I wasn't too sure about it. I was like, oh, this is just going to be something that's light and fluffy. And I'm not somebody that reads a ton of romance, but this had me hooked. And after, I would say probably about maybe 50 or so pages, it was great. And then the last like third of the book is... a lot of stuff went down the last third of the book. So I would definitely pick this up. Again, like I said, this was a 5 out of 5 stars for me. It just had a lot of stuff going on. It touched on a lot of things. It had a lot of romantic scenes in there. If you are someone that likes a lot of, you know, sexy times in your book, there's a lot of that in here. It's really funny. I liked Jake and Naya's relationship. It had everything going on in this book. I absolutely love this and would highly, highly, highly recommend this one. So the next one that I have is The Soulmate Equation by the author Christina Lauren. And this is, I think this is my second Christina Lauren book. And if you don't know, this is a author duo. So this one follows our main character, Jessica. And she is a single mom, and this is another situation where she kind of works a lot and she's really focused on just raising her young daughter, and she is kind of in a financial bind, and her financial situation is kind of tight, and she's just in that situation where she is living paycheck to paycheck, and she relies heavily on her grandparents to help her out anytime she's like in a financial bind and anytime she needs help with her daughter. And she also kind of relies on her best friend Fizzy to help her out with her daughter anytime she needs it. And so her best friend is kind of trying to get her back on the dating scene, so that they kind of think that if she dates, that she'll find someone and kind of take the time that she needs for herself and be happy. So Jessica and her best friend Fizzy always goes to the coffee shop, and one day while they're there, they run into this guy by the name of River, who is always there, and he's like this uptight jerk. And he ends up telling them that he is part of this company that is working on this dating app that is called Genetically, I think. Yeah, it's called Genetically. And basically they take swabs from people, like spit swabs from people, and they are able to use your DNA to then match you to your perfect soulmate. And so Fizzy really encourages Jessica to try this out. Come to find out, Jessica and River match, and so the company is really pushing for them to try and date because they think that this will really help their company really push this app, because the app technically hasn't launched yet. And so they think that since Jessica and River, who is somebody who is really high up in the company and one of the developers for this app, that if they are indeed truly compatible and the relationship works, it will look really good for the company. So they are really trying to push them to date. And so reluctantly, Jessica agrees. And so we are just following them as they are getting to know each other, as they are getting to date. And that is basically what this story is about. I ended up rating this story a 4 stars. For the most part, I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed learning how the app works, how the DNA portion of this works. Now, with that being said, I did read a few reviews, and some people didn't like learning about how the app works because it is kind of science heavy. And if you are somebody who don't want all that science talk in your romance, you probably won't like this. I don't really mind it. That was really interesting to me because it was a different take on the dating apps. So I really enjoyed it. So that was one of the things that I really liked about this. I enjoyed the characters. Her best friend Fizzy was really funny, and her best friend is a romance novelist. So she was really taking this like dating app thing really serious, and herself was trying the dating app, and hearing about her dating escapades was hilarious, and hearing her write about all this stuff was hilarious. So I really liked that. And another thing that I really liked was how once Jessica and River started dating, I really liked how he really cared for her daughter and kind of just stepped into that role of being the one to help take care of her and take care of whatever Jessica needed and be that helping hand. I like seeing that because you don't see a lot of guys, one, want to deal with somebody that already has a child, and then two, treat that child like their own. You don't see a lot of that. So for that to be into the story, love that. Now, there's two things that I did not like, which took my rating from a 5 to a 4. And one of the things that I didn't like was, in the beginning, I said that River started off as like a jerk. As soon as he knew that he was matched with Jessica, his personality just like did a complete 180. It was so quick. And it was like really sudden. And I get why his personality changed, because he, of course, if he's one of the developers of this app, he's going to take it really serious and want to know if his product works. But it's just like, dude, if you're a jerk, you're a jerk. And I would just have liked to see a little bit more character development and want to see his attitude change over time, instead of it feeling like a light switch. Like you can just flip his attitude on and off. Like I didn't like that. And another thing that I didn't really like was just everything just seemed so perfect in the story. Like everything just worked out so perfect. There was like a little conflict towards the end, but it just seemed, one, so predictable, and two, it just got resolved so quickly and so easily. So I didn't really like that, and I was just like, okay, I guess I'll take what you're giving me. But besides those two things, everything else I really loved. Her daughter Juno was amazing. She was a sweet little girl. Her grandparents were amazing. You did get to see, like I said, she relied on her grandparents. She didn't have any help from her actual parents, and you learn why in the story. And for the most part, like I said, I really enjoyed it. It was 4 stars. I liked it. There isn't a lot of like really heavy like sexy time, so if that's what you're wanting out of this book, you're not going to get it here. And again, if you are not looking for like a lot of science, a lot of numbers, anything like that, you might not like this. But if you're okay with that, this is one that I would highly recommend. So then the next one that I wanted to talk about is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. And I actually had never really heard about this author until, I don't know if it was last year or the year before last, when she had wrote Beach Read. And when I was looking her up, she actually had wrote a lot of other books, and I didn't know that. I thought it was just this one and Beach Read. But the only reason why I ended up picking up this one was because Erin over at Booked and Busy had raved about this one. So I was like, if she really likes this one, I'm going to go ahead and pick this one up. So I did, and I'll have to say I enjoyed it. So this one follows our 2 main characters by the name of Poppy and Alex, and they actually met in college. And after they met in college, it was kind of like a weird interaction between them, but they ended up becoming really good friends. And over the course of their friendship, every summer, they ended up taking vacations together. And so we are following them as they take these summer vacations. So The story is told in basically two different timelines. So we are getting the story primarily in the present time. And in the present time, we know that something happened 2 summers ago. Something to the fact of it caused Poppy and Alex to not be as close with each other, and it caused a lot of tension between them. But they end up trying to come back together, and Poppy ends up planning this vacation with Alex so that they can kind of rekindle their friendship. And then we are getting past storyline where we are going back. I think it starts from 10 summers ago, and then it is leading up to that 2 summers ago when something happened, if that makes sense. So I really enjoyed this. I actually liked the different timelines because it is building up that tension, and I liked Poppy and Alex's character. So I like the setting of this because they both are from Ohio, and they met in school in Chicago. And Poppy ends up dropping out of school, and she moves to New York to become this travel blogger. She travels around, and she works for this travel magazine. And then Alex becomes a teacher. He ends up staying in their hometown of Ohio, and so they come together for their vacations. And so we are just basically hearing about their vacations over the span of 10 summers, and how even though they are friends, we are still learning about the other relationships that they've had throughout those years. And then in the present time, we are seeing how their current vacation that they're on, how they're getting along as friends, and we are seeing the awkwardness between them, and we are slowly unraveling their true feelings for each other. And I have never read about two people that are just so awkward. And especially Alex, he's like the cutest awkward person I have ever read about. And it's just like, this is like one of those books that you love, but it's so frustrating because you're just like, oh my gosh, just tell them how you feel already, Jesus. And this just gave me everything. I love their friendship, and it just had you like rooting for them. I just don't even really know how to explain it without like really giving too much away. So I'm not even going to really give too much besides that. And another reason why I just loved the setting, because I like New York and reading about New York, and I liked reading about their different vacations and the things that they did. And I just really enjoyed everything about this one. Now, I only gave this a 4 stars. It wasn't necessarily just like that 5-star read for me. And the reason why it just wasn't a 5-star for me was I just feel like it was just kind of missing something. And I can't really explain what it was because I really enjoyed it. It just was missing something. And I can't really put my finger on what it was, because it was like one of those books that you enjoy while you're reading it. I was fully invested while I was reading it, but like when you put it down, you kind of forget, if that makes sense. But it's like I would definitely recommend it to people. Now, I haven't read Beach Read. I don't know if I would read Beach Read because it's still like Beach Read just didn't appeal to me like this one did. But this one I would highly recommend. Like I said, I really enjoyed Poppy and Alex as characters. I enjoyed the story for what it was. I enjoyed the different timelines. I just feel like everything worked. I just don't, it just worked. Now, this last one I actually just finished, like right before I started filming, and that is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And I didn't know how I was going to feel about this one because I have heard a lot of mixed things about this one. And I've only read 2 of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books, and that would be this one and The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And I thought The 7 Husbands was okay. I think I gave that one 3 stars. That one, I just felt like it was fine. I just felt like it was really over the top. It was really dramatic for the sake of being dramatic. And that's coming from somebody who likes the dramatics. I like anything that's drama filled, but that book just seemed like it was just drama for the sake of being drama. But this one, I really, really enjoyed this one. And this one isn't necessarily a romance. I think this one is more categorized as like adult historical fiction, just like The 7 Husbands was. And if you don't know, this one is really popular over the summer, but this one is following the husbands of one of the husbands from The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And this one is following Mick Riva and his 4 children. And so this one is told in a dual timeline. So we are getting the story in the present where we are following the 4 Riva children. So we have Nina, who is the oldest. So we're following Nina, Jay, Hud, and Kit as they are getting ready for the big Riva children party at Nina's house. And then we are following the timeline in the past where we are following Mick as he is becoming this up and coming pop star that he is known as today. And so that is basically what the story is. It's not really much of a plot. It is literally just following this family. So in the past, and kind of more so Mick's story, when we are following him as he is this up and coming pop star, we're following more so him and their mother June's relationship, how they met, how their relationship started, when she started actually having the children, and how all that came to be. And then in the present, when they are getting ready for this party, we are learning more about the sibling relationship, how basically how close they are, how their dynamics are with each other, and basically, you know, how they are as adults, why this party is so important, and how the things that happened to them when they were little, how that's affecting them today as they are adults. And this literally is, like I said, a character-driven story, and I was all for it. I gave this one a 4 stars, and I don't think this is going to be a story for everybody. I do kind of feel like, just based off of the reviews that I have seen and read, I feel like the people who are diehard 7 Husbands fans don't tend to like this one as much. And then people like me who were kind of lukewarm about the 7 Husbands seem to like this one a little bit more. I just feel like I tend to like this one a little bit more because the drama in this one just seems a little bit more real, and the drama seems more believable, and it's just not over the top. And I don't know, I just vibed with this one a lot more. The story just made sense, and the secrets that were revealed, the sibling relationships, I just loved everything about this one. And I loved Nina as a character because at a certain point in this book, she had to kind of step up and take the role of the mother, and she did that with grace. She did that without question, and she got a lot of respect from her siblings for that, and she got a lot of respect from me for that. And I just loved her. And the younger sister, Kit, I loved her. She spoke her mind. She was the spunky one out of the group. she was the funny one out of the group, and she was going to tell you like it is. And, you know, their father, Mick, terrible person. You know, I kind of feel like he had excuses for the things that he did, which I don't really think there's an excuse for the way that you treat your family. I don't really care what your background story is. I just don't think there's an excuse for the things that you do. But, you know, we kind of learn why he did the things that he did. And then this party that they had, you get to see that in full swing and the crazy things that went on at this party. And in the beginning, you know, they were talking about fires and how it even says on the little flap here that by the end of the night, you know, the house is going to end up in flames. It just, I like this book. Again, I'm not really sure who I would recommend this to. If you're not somebody who is a character-driven person, if you need more of a plot, this probably isn't for you. If you didn't like The Seven Husbands, I'm not sure you would like this one. This did reference a lot from The Seven Husbands. I don't necessarily think you need to have read The Seven Husbands to read this one. I just think that you would appreciate the references made in here from The Seven Husbands if you read that one first. But you definitely don't need to read that one to read this one. The only problems I had with this one was just that there was just something mentioned in the beginning of this, and I feel like it was just so, I just felt like it just harped on that and tried to make it seem like it was going to be such a big plot point in this story. I say plot point like there's really a plot, but it just made it seem like it was going to be so important, and then by the end of it, it just was kind of glossed over. I didn't really like that. It just didn't make sense to me. I didn't really like that. And again, kind of like The People That We Met on Vacation, even though I really liked it, this was also one of those books that I just kind of feel like while you're in the middle of reading it, like you're so engrossed in it, but as soon as you put it down, it's kind of like you don't think about it again. And to me, those don't warrant 5 stars. So, you know, take that however you will. But this is one of those that it was a surprise for me. Because like I said, I heard a lot of mixed things. Wasn't really sure how I was going to feel. But it surprised me, and I really enjoyed this one. So that is all that I have for you guys, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye.